In the past week, Oracle revealed that it has cut about 21,000 jobs globally over the last year, as it aggressively reshapes its business around artificial intelligence and cloud services. These cuts span multiple regions and functions as the company reallocates resources toward AI-driven products and infrastructure, signaling a major strategic pivot rather than a short-term cost-saving exercise. Oracle's leadership has framed these changes as essential to remain competitive against hyperscalers and other AI-first players, prioritizing investment in data centers, AI infrastructure, and cloud offerings. For many observers, the story is less about layoffs and more about how fast large enterprises are repositioning themselves for an AI-centric future. Hi, and welcome to CEO University. I am Naomi, the Director of Client Growth. Today, I want to talk about a major business story that landed this week and what it means for you as a CEO or owner of a privately held company. Oracle, one of the world's largest tech firms, has cut roughly 21,000 jobs over the last year as it aggressively shifts its business toward artificial intelligence and cloud infrastructure. On the surface, it looks like another big tech layoff story, but if you look closer, it's actually a case study in how leadership responds to structural change. Here's the quick rundown. Oracle has been facing intense competitive pressure from players like Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Cloud, especially as AI workloads explode. Over the past year, Oracle's leadership has been reallocating capital and talent into AI-related products, data centers, and cloud services that can handle those workloads at scale. To make that pivot, they've shed about 21,000 roles globally across different business units and locations as part of a broader restructuring. This isn't a one-time belt-tightening. It's a multi-year repositioning of the company around where they believe the value will be over the next decade. Publicly, Oracle has emphasized its focus on AI capabilities, cloud infrastructure, and long-term competitiveness rather than short-term earnings optimization. In other words, they're trading organizational comfort today for strategic relevance tomorrow. For many employees and stakeholders, it's painful. For CEOs, it's a reminder. The pace of change in technology, and especially in AI, is now forcing leaders to make uncomfortable, structural moves much sooner than they'd like. So what's the leadership lesson here for you running a privately held company? The core lesson is this: you can't wait for disruption to be proven before you realign your business around it. Oracle is acting on a thesis that AI and cloud are not incremental features. They're defining the next competitive landscape. They're willing to reorganize their workforce, product portfolio, and capital allocation before the market gives them perfect certainty. As a privately held CEO, you actually have an advantage here. You're not under the same quarterly earnings spotlight as a public company. You can make deliberate, medium-term bets without Wall Street second-guessing every move. But many private company leaders fall into a different trap. They delay structural decisions because the current model is still working, even if the signals of change are obvious. Oracle's move is a stark reminder that strategic courage is about timing. Acting early enough that you're shaping the next curve, not chasing it. Acting decisively enough that your organization feels the shift, not just hears about it in a memo. Let's bring this down from big tech news to your world, privately held companies across industries. Whether you're in manufacturing, professional services, healthcare, maritime technology, beauty and cosmetics, or SaaS, AI is already reshaping how value is created and delivered. That shows up in how you acquire customers and create demand, how you price, forecast, and manage risk, how you design products, services, and support experiences. Oracle's story is a high-profile example of something quieter that's happening everywhere. Leaders are systematically asking, if we had to rebuild this company today in an AI-first world, what would look different? For privately held businesses, there are 3 reasons this matters. Your competitive set is shifting. New entrants born with AI-native processes may undercut your costs, outlearn your market, or deliver better customer experiences than legacy players. Your talent expectations are changing. Employees increasingly expect modern tools, automation, and opportunities to work with emerging technologies, not just legacy systems. Your margin structure is at risk. If competitors can automate more of their workflows, your manual processes become a structural disadvantage. You don't need to emulate Oracle's scale or their exact moves, but you do need the same willingness to re-examine the core of your business, not just bolt AI onto the edges. Let's get very tactical. If you're watching this as a CEO or owner, here's what I recommend you do this week, inspired by the Oracle story. Curious 1. Run a zero-based AI strategy conversation block 90 minutes with your leadership team and ask one simple question. If we were starting this business today, knowing what we know about AI and automation, what would we design differently? Thoughtful. Push the conversation into specifics. Which processes would we never build manually? Where would we insist on data visibility and integration from day one? Which parts of our value proposition could be augmented or reimagined with AI? You're not committing to anything in that meeting. You're opening up strategic options and surfacing sacred cows that might need to be challenged. Pause. 2. Identify one structural, not cosmetic, change. From that conversation, choose one change that is structural rather than cosmetic. Examples. Re-architect how you capture and use customer data so it can feed into AI-assisted pricing, personalization, or risk scoring. Consolidate or retire legacy systems that block automation and create islands of data. Redesign a key workflow, like onboarding, support, or logistics, around an AI-enabled process instead of manual steps. Ask. If Oracle has the courage to reallocate tens of thousands of roles around a new strategic center of gravity, what's the scaled-down version of that for us? You're not cutting 21,000 jobs, but you might decide that a certain legacy offering, system, or process is no longer part of your future. 3. Set a 90-day AI implementation objective. Next, turn this week's insight into a clear 90-day objective. Something like, within 90 days, we will automate 25.50% of the manual steps in our customer onboarding process. Within 90 days, we will implement an AI-assisted forecasting tool for sales and inventory. Within 90 days, we will pilot an AI-based support assistant to handle Tier 1 customer inquiries. Write it down. Assign an owner. Define what success looks like. Treat it like any other strategic initiative. 4. Communicate the why to your team. Oracle's story also highlights the human side. Large restructurings create fear, speculation, and resistance. In a privately held company, you have the opportunity to lead differently. When you introduce AI-related changes, tie them explicitly to your long-term mission, not just efficiency. Emphasize that your goal is to augment people, not blindly replace them. Be transparent about where you're experimenting and what you don't yet know. The leadership move is to create psychological safety around change, so your team can lean into learning instead of digging into defensiveness. 5. Build your own AI radar. Finally, use this week to formalize how you, as CEO, will stay informed. That might mean a monthly internal briefing on AI tools and industry use cases, a small cross-functional AI working group that tests new tools and reports back, regular conversations with peers across industries about what they're seeing and implementing. Oracle has entire divisions focused on AI trends. You need a scaled-down but deliberate version of that radar in your company. Don't rely on random headlines to shape your view. At CEO University, we exist to help privately held company leaders navigate exactly this kind of disruption, calmly, strategically, and with peers who are wrestling with the same questions. If this Oracle story resonated with you, here are 2 next steps. Share this video with at least one fellow CEO or owner and ask, what's our version of this? Join a CEO University peer board where we can unpack these structural shifts together, challenge each other's assumptions, and hold each other accountable for the moves we decide to make. You don't have to navigate AI disruption alone, and you don't have to copy big tech playbooks, but you do need a space where you can think clearly, test ideas, and make intentional changes before the market forces them on you. Thanks for being here with CEO University. I'm looking forward to hearing what you choose to do differently this week.